Imagine the sun rising over the vast lands of India. For centuries, its first light would catch the glimmer of dazzling courts and the imposing walls of colossal forts. This was the stage for one of history's most magnificent dynasties, the Mughals. Their story, a saga of conquest, culture, and incredible complexity, was written right across the subcontinent.
And that story, wow! It was an era absolutely defined by ambition, by breathtaking art, by epic love, and by heartbreaking loss. So today, we're going to journey through the rise and fall of the great Mughal emperors, a dynasty that truly, forever, shaped a subcontinent.
So our journey is going to follow these 6 the Great Mughals. It's a line of rulers whose reigns spanned almost 200 years. We'll start with Babur, the founder, and go all the way to Aurangzeb, the man who expanded the empire to its absolute limit. Each one of them left an indelible mark. Let's get into their story.
And where do we begin? Well, like all great stories, we start at the very beginning, the dawn of the empire. It all kicks off with a young man whose eyes were just filled with dreams and, whose hand held a sword.
Okay, so what's so fascinating about the founder, Babur, is that he was this incredible paradox. On one hand, you have the fierce conqueror, right? The guy who came from the cold valleys of Fergana. His cannons literally thundered across the battlefield at Panipat, shattering the Lodi dynasty and raising the flag of a brand new empire. But get this, on the other hand, he was a poet, a man whose heart just yearned for the beauty of gardens and fountains and nature. He built an empire with steel, but he dreamt of it in verse.
So, after that foundation was laid, the empire immediately faced its first great test. This next chapter is really a story of near collapse and then this extraordinary comeback, a real journey from struggle to unity.
You see, Babur's son Humayun found out that fate can be pretty cruel. He inherits the throne, but then he loses it all. He's defeated in battle and forced into exile. For years he wandered, even taking refuge in the courts of Persia. But that dream of Delhi, it never left him. And he did it. He came back and reclaimed his broken crown, only to die just a few days later in a tragic fall down a flight of stairs. History doesn't really remember him for weakness, though. He's become this symbol of patience and sheer perseverance.
And out of that instability rose one of history's absolute greatest rulers. When Akbar the Great took the throne, he understood a fundamental truth. You can't build a lasting empire on force alone. Nope, he was going to strengthen it with a pretty revolutionary idea: wisdom.
And this chart here, it illustrates his philosophy perfectly. Akbar saw everyone, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, as equal subjects of his empire. And this wasn't just some vague ideal, He put bold policies into action, like abolishing the jizya tax on non-Muslims. He filled his court with scholars from all different faiths. He just knew that true power didn't come from conquering lands. It came from winning the hearts of the people. And that policy of inclusion, it became the very bedrock of the empire's strength.
Okay, so with the empire secure and totally unified, the Mughals entered their golden age. This was it, the peak of splendor. We're talking an era of unparalleled wealth, incredible art, and a really unique commitment to justice. Akbar's son, Jahangir, he inherited a strong empire, but he added his own special touch. He famously hung a chain of justice right outside his palace, and this wasn't just for show. Any citizen, no matter how humble, could pull that chain and have their problem heard directly by the emperor himself. How incredible is that? His reign was also profoundly shaped by the brilliant and powerful Empress Noor Jahan, whose intelligence really influenced the decisions of the entire empire.
And then came Shah Jahan, who you might call the King of Love. His reign is remembered as the absolute zenith, the highest point of Mughal magnificence. The wealth of the empire was just staggering, and he channeled it into creating some of the most breathtaking art and architecture the world has ever seen.
For Shah Jahan, all this splendor was deeply personal. His love for his wife, Mumtaz Mahal, led to the creation of the Taj Mahal. And as the source material puts it so beautifully, this building is not just a tomb, but a story of a heart. It's a testament to his love, literally carved in white marble for all of eternity.
But, beneath the shimmering surface of this golden age, the foundations of decline were already being laid. And this brings us to the final great emperor and the great paradox of his rule, an age of both massive expansion and at the same time decline.
Just look at this paradox. Under Aurangzeb, the Mughal Empire expanded to its largest size ever. It covered nearly the entire subcontinent. And yet, as the empire's borders grew, its internal unity just fractured. You see, he reversed Akbar's inclusive policies and imposed strict religious laws, which led to widespread resentment. This sparked costly, draining rebellions all over the place, from the Marathas in the Deccan to the Sikhs in the Punjab, and it just weakened the empire from the inside.
His legacy is just full of contradictions. He was a deeply pious man who lived a simple life, so much so that he was buried in an unmarked, simple grave, completely shunning the opulence of his ancestors. He was a brilliant military strategist who took the empire to its peak, yet he was the one under whom the ties that bound it all together began to fray. He just couldn't win the hearts of his people.
So, as time passed, the emperors were gone. What's left? What are these echoes of history that still resonate with us today?
The great walls of the forts, they fell silent. The magnificent thrones were emptied. But the stories of these emperors, their decisions, their mistakes, their loves, and their dreams, they still breathe. They're woven right into the fabric of history, a permanent part of the subcontinent's story.
And this whole saga, it leaves us with one really profound question to think about. Empires are forged by the sword, right? That much is clear. But what is it that allows them to truly live on, to endure in the memory of the world long after they're gone?
The answer is so simple and yet so powerful. They live on through justice, love, and wisdom. The sword can conquer, for sure, but it's these timeless values that build a legacy that truly echoes through history.
Let's dive into the epic saga of the Mughal Empire, a dynasty that changed history forever.
This quote really sets the scene, doesn't it? Capturing the pure majesty of the Mughal era. So, this is a story about 6 incredible emperors, passing the throne from one generation to the next.
And it all starts with Babur. He came from the Fergana Valley with big dreams of conquest.
But he wasn't just a warrior. He was also a poet who absolutely loved gardens.
Next up is Babur's son, Humayun. He got the throne, but his story, well, it was a roller coaster.
Yeah, he lost it all, lived in exile for years, but he never gave up and fought back.
Then came Akbar the Great. He understood that you need more than just an army to build an empire.
His whole approach was about inclusion, winning hearts and minds, not just battles.
After him came Jahangir. The empire was thriving, but his real passion? It was justice.
This chain of justice was incredible. It meant any citizen could get the emperor's ear, directly.
And you can't talk about his reign without mentioning the brilliant Empress Noor Jahan. She was a powerhouse.
All right, now we hit the peak of Mughal splendor with Shah Jahan, the emperor who built for beauty.
It was his deep, deep love for his wife, Mumtaz Mahal, that gave us the Taj Mahal.
So this was the golden age, the absolute zenith. But, things were starting to change.
And finally, we meet the last of the great Mughals, Aurangzeb, a truly formidable and devout ruler.
And wow, what a shift from his father. He was all about piety and military expansion, not art.
So he made the empire bigger than ever. But inside, his strict rule was causing deep cracks. It's amazing, right? The most powerful man on the subcontinent was buried in a deliberately simple grave.
So the emperors are long gone, but their stories, their choices, their loves, they still echo today.
And their whole story leaves us with a really big question. What actually makes an empire last?
And here, our source gives us a pretty powerful answer, a lesson that's truly timeless, right?
And that's their legacy, a massive shadow of both glory and tragedy that still shapes history today.
आइए उस अजीम सल्तनत की कहानी में चलते हैं जिसने तारीख का धारा ही बदल दिया। ये कहानी उस वक्त की है जब मुगल बादशाहों के हर कदम से तारीख रकम होती थी।
ये दास्तान है एक ही खानदान की, 6 अजीम बादशाह जिन्होंने तारीख का रुख बदल दिया।
तो कहानी का पहला बाब शुरू होता है एक बानी के ख्वाब से। ज़हीरुद्दीन मोहम्मद बाबर, फरगाना की वादियों से उसकी नजरें सीधी हिंदुस्तान पर थीं।
वो सिर्फ एक जंगजू नहीं था, बल्कि एक शायर भी था, सल्तनत भी बनाई और बाग भी।
लेकिन बाबर के बेटे हुमायूं की किस्मत उतनी अच्छी नहीं थी, उसे अपना तख्त खोना पड़ा। कई साल जलावतनी के बाद वो अपना ताज वापस लेने आया। क्या जबरदस्त अज़्म था। अब आता है सल्तनत का सुनहरी दौर, हिकमत और शानो शौकत का दौर। और फिर आया अकबर, जो जानता था कि सल्तनत तलवार से नहीं हिकमत से बनती है।
इसका फलसफा सीधा था, असल ताकत लोगों को जोड़ने में है, तोड़ने में नहीं।
उसके बेटे जहांगीर ने तो इंसाफ की जंजीर से खुद को आवाम से जोड़ लिया था। और शानो शौकत का ये दौर अपने उरूज पर पहुंचा शाहजहां के साथ। اپنی بیوی ممتاز محل کے لیے اس کی محبت تاج محل کی شکل میں ہمیشہ کے لیے امر ہو گئی۔
یہ فنی تعمیر و دولت کا عروج تھا، لیکن اس شان و شوکت کے پیچھے ایک گہرا سایہ تھا۔
اور یہیں سے تیسرا باب شروع ہوتا ہے، ایک طویل غروب کا۔
شاہجہاں اور اس کے جانشین اورنگزیب میں زمین آسمان کا فرق تھا۔
اورنگزیب ایک سخت اور دیندار بادشاہ جس نے سلطنت کو سب سے زیادہ وسیع کیا، لیکن سرحدیں تو پھیل رہی تھیں پر سلطنت کا دل اندر سے کمزور ہو رہا تھا۔
اور انجام ایک بالکل سادہ بے نام قبر، جیسے دنیا کی شان و شوکت سے کوئی مطلب ہی نہ ہو۔
قلعے خاموش ہیں، تخت خالی، لیکن مغلوں کی کہانیاں آج بھی زندہ ہیں،
کیونکہ ان کے عروج و زوال کی کہانی میں ایک بہت بڑا سبق چھپا ہے۔ ان کا سایہ آج بھی تاریخ پر ہے، جو ہمیں سوچنے پر مجبور کرتا ہے، آخر میراث بنتی کس چیز سے ہے؟